Hey there, I'm the Madcatster. Am I glad to see you here? Well, finally, I've got an update for you on the Illuminati and Oz lawsuit situation. If you recall, I had not done a video back in the fall because Oz had asked me to hold off until he did a video of his own talking about his counterclaims against Blair. And then that didn't end up happening because they're apparently back in negotiations for possible settlement. So I am going to finally update you. I want to let you know that there's some pretty shocking stuff in there. Just when you thought this couldn't get any worse, it gets much worse, much darker, and it's totally disgusting. You know me, I've got the deets and all the receipts, so buckle up and let's go. I'm here with Sybil the Enforcer. Sybil's up tonight, and she's purring away. And she decided she wanted to come say hello to you guys. So first I would like to thank Amanda for buying me 2 coffees. Amanda, thank you so much. You guys, the only thing that's for me is the buy me a coffee, which is the link is down below. But all the other stuff, the Patreon patrons and the members and the Amazon wish list, that's all stuff for the cats. So thank you so much, Amanda. I really appreciate it. So now I have an update for you in the Blair Illuminati versus Oz lawsuit. Oz has filed his counterclaims, and we're going to go over those. There's some really shocking allegations in there. I have redacted a bunch of stuff that I thought, first of all, out of respect for Oz, and second, I didn't think it was necessary to put salacious details out there. You will, I'm sure, be able to make your own guess or surmise what it could possibly be talking about. You want to know what really angers me about this potential TikTok ban? The government says that they're concerned because allegedly TikTok is harvesting data and that there are concerns for people's security and privacy. Well, you and I could go to any data broker's website right now and buy just about anybody's information for just a few bucks, and it's perfectly legal. That makes me mad. Big companies with poor security are constantly getting hacked. We see it in the news all the time. Your data's been compromised. They stole social security numbers. They stole this data, that data. Millions of people getting affected, and it continues to happen. And when these breaches do happen, these companies get basically a slap on the wrist. So if the government can ban TikTok, the government should be able to step in and do something about protecting us from these other companies as well. In my personal experience, one of the worst things that happened to me was somebody got into my Facebook account, and when I tried to get control back, what Facebook did was lock the account, and then they wouldn't give me back the access. So I lost years of posts and photos and other data that really, really made me mad. And so I learned that it's on myself and on all of us to protect ourselves. That is why I use today's sponsor, Aura. I've been using them now for many months, and I can tell you that I'm very happy with the service because I get notifications all the time from them. Aura keeps me safe and will keep you safe online by doing all of the hard work for you, all in one place in their convenient app. They will identify brokers who are selling my information, and they will opt out of those particular services for me. They also continuously monitor the dark web and let me know if they find my information there. And I can tell you, I get alerts about the dark web all the time. Aura scours the dark web, and when they find instances like that, they send you an alert to let you know. They also will let me know when my passwords have been compromised potentially. They're gonna let me know fast if anyone tries to use that information to access my bank accounts or my credit. Plus, they give me up to $5 million in identity theft insurance in case the worst should happen. On top of all of this, incredibly, the Aura app also has a built-in VPN with over 100 plus locations so that you can use a VPN to mask where you are and mask your IP address. Right now, Aura is offering a great deal for you guys, my viewers. They're going to give you 14 days free, which is enough time for them to determine if your information is out there and is being compromised. You can go to aura.com/madcatster, and this is the link here. Or you can look in the description down below. I'm going to put the link there as well. So stop leaving yourself vulnerable to data breaches. Check out the link below. Go check out Aura. Get your 14 days free. See what you think and see if you agree with me. I know you're probably going to. So give it a try. Okay, so you'll see here, we've got the plaintiff, in this case, is Pyramid Entertainment and Blair. And the defendants are Oz, Felix the Kit Kat, and Wonder, as you know. And this is now the counterclaim and cross-claim plaintiff Oz versus counterclaim defendant Pyramid Entertainment and Blair, as well as cross-claim defendants John Doe, and I'm not going to put his name here, but he was the guy that Blair was seeing right after she and Oz broke it off, and her company 9 Point Holdings Inc., a Colorado corporation, and the county public trustee. And this isn't first documents in order granting Oz's motion to join parties on counterclaims. And Basically, what he's doing is he's bringing in parties that weren't named in Blair's lawsuit because he's got counterclaims against these individuals, and so it's called joinder of parties. So he doesn't need to file a whole separate lawsuit. He can still do his counterclaims against Blair, which is basically a lawsuit within a lawsuit, and he can add in relevant people to the counterclaims, and that's what he's done here. And the court has granted his motion. So now we'll move on to Oz's amended counterclaim and cross-claim complaint and demand for jury trial. And this again is Oz versus Blair and Pyramid Entertainment, her company, and John Doe, Blair's boyfriend after Oz, her company 9 Point Holdings Inc., and the county public trustee. And so we already talked about who the parties are, and it talks about, that they're all Colorado residents and Colorado corporations, and so it's proper for the court to have jurisdiction over them in this particular lawsuit. We don't need to read through all of that. And there are some people that Oz was not seeking relief against, and they listed some people here, and because they're not part of this, I've completely blacked out the information because it's not necessary. And it says cross-claim defendant, county public trustee is a Colorado public official, so you'll understand why these people are all named in a few minutes. So here are the factual allegations. The claim against Oz by Blair for defamation per se in this action is alleged to have arisen from Oz's September 16, 2023 YouTube video, Let's Talk, an update on Illuminaughtii drama, in which Oz explains his understanding that Blair coerced him into signing promissory notes and deeds of trust secured against Oz's house for previous financial transactions and assistance Blair gave to Oz while Blair was, to Oz's understanding, using the assets of her various business entities, Pyramid Entertainment and 9 Point Holdings, for her personal use without a legitimate business purpose. Oz was pressured by Blair into signing various documents purporting to evidence debts by him to her and her companies months and even years after Blair initially used company funds of 9 Point Holdings Inc. and or Pyramid Entertainment to pay for some expenses she incurred in her personal relationship with Oz, unrelated to her business. Oz's Let's Talk video was posted after he learned of Blair's and 9 Point Holding Inc.'s pending foreclosure of his residence, and you guys know all that drama, and you can go back and look at my videos if you're not familiar with it. They each filed a notice of election and demand with the county public trust on August 22nd, 2023. This action was initially filed on August 29th, 2023. That's Blair's initial lawsuit. Blair had also apparently attempted to obtain civil restraining orders against Oz and others, which have come to light publicly, but notice of which was never served on Oz, and it appears no relief was ever granted. So they were, in my opinion, bogus, and so nothing ever came of them. Upon information and belief, both the foreclosure and initial filing complaint in this action by Blair were intended to silence Oz and others from discussing intertwined personal and professional relationships with her, which were subject of widespread public interest and concern, particularly in the YouTube online community. And we saw there was a flurry of videos all across YouTube about this situation. All of this was only after Blair became embroiled in controversy of her own related to accusations of plagiarism she had made against a YouTuber, Legal, and you guys are familiar with that situation probably, that blew up in her face. Blair has attempted to scapegoat Oz for her downfall, while also preventing him from commenting on the public controversy she had created and unleashed. See Blair's Illuminaughtii Exposed YouTube video posted on April 28, 2023, in which she addresses her personal and professional relationships with numerous individuals, including Oz, in a public forum. And she basically threw gasoline on the fire because she went and made that video and put out all kinds of disparaging remarks, in my opinion, against Oz and Wonder and Felix the Kit Kat. These statements made publicly by Blair have garnered considerable public attention and interest, as they are in stark contrast to Blair's public Illuminaughtii persona and purported values, which were focused on criticism and the exposure of bad corporate actors in a variety of industries. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? At the time Oz signed the instruments of debt, he understood that unless he signed various debt instruments to 9 Point Holdings Inc. and Blair personally, Blair could get into trouble legally for misuse of company assets or, to his understanding, liable for embezzlement. Blair explained her need for the documents was because she would be in trouble legally if her companies couldn't account for where these funds were spent and for what business purpose. Despite signing the documents purporting to evidence debt, which were secured by the deeds of trust on his home, Oz was never provided with any clear itemization of the alleged debts claimed by Blair and Nine Point Holdings Inc. Oz was rather coerced and manipulated by Blair into signing these documents. Blair drove Oz to her attorney's office on December 22nd, 2022, after telling him his signature on the documents would mend their relationship and that Blair had to have them signed before the end of the year. And what Oz had said in his video was, in fact, she had already started a relationship with this other guy, this John Doe guy, and it wasn't true at all that it was going to mend their relationship. She was just basically allegedly trying to corner him into giving her a lien on his house. The statement by Oz in his Let's Talk video is his understanding of why he signed documents that he signed and explaining that he didn't know the documents gave Blair and Nine Point Holdings Inc. the power to foreclose on his home. Oz disputes the amounts of such claimed indebtedness to Blair and Nine Point Holdings Inc. and demands an equitable accounting of the amounts of such claims of indebtedness. So would I want to that too. You can't just say, well, you owe me all this money and I'm going to put a lien on your house. Well, give me an itemization of exactly what the charges, what they were for, how much, what date. You know, that's standard practice. You can't just say, well, you owe me this debt and pull it out of your butt, you know? Oz requests such accounting and also to begin discovery of relevant documents and information in the sole possession, custody, or control of Blair and her entities related thereto. Thereafter, Oz may seek leave to amend his counterclaims, third-party complaint to assert any appropriate claims for rescission and or reformation of such instruments of debt, including promissory notes and deeds of trust. Oz is informed and believes that many of the alleged debts included by Blair in the documents evidencing debt appear to be for Blair's personal expenses and or expenses they incurred during their short romantic relationship at Blair's urging and insistence that Oz had understood at the time were to be shared. Instead of sharing the expenses, Blair used company funds in many instances and then added the amounts to an undisclosed ledger of debt she claimed Oz owed back to her and or her companies in a manner that would appear to make any of the expenditures to be from Blair's LLC and corporation to be legitimate business expenses or loans to Oz. Initially, Blair provided a $40,000 payment to Oz in or about January 2021 from Nine Point Holdings Inc. that was used to satisfy loan underwriting for Oz's purchase of the newly constructed home. Blair created and provided an invoice receipt from Nine Point Holdings Inc. for computer construction and service-related work performed by Oz to document the payment. Later, however, Blair would include the $40,000 payment in an unwritten ledger of debt she claimed Oz owed her and or her companies, and she used undue influence and pressure to coerce Oz into signing loan documents that included the $40,000 payment, along with numerous other amounts which were never itemized or identified. Sounds pretty shady to me. Construction of the new home was completed in early 2021, and Oz closed on the purchase thereof in early February 2021. He and Blair began moving into the residence in March and April of 2021. Upon information and belief, Blair would later inflate the $40,000 payment to $49,999 without any basis and include the amounts in the unwritten ledger of debt. What the hell is an unwritten ledger of debt? Something you're just tallying in your head? That's ridiculous. Other amounts of alleged debt appear to be for the rental expense of a warehouse where Blair conducted the business for her candle company, production of Iilluminaughtii videos, and a crypto farm that was at one point a joint venture, initially with Oz, but Blair bought out Oz's interest therein. Upon information and belief, rather than splitting the warehouse rental expenses, it appears that Blair charged the total amount of rent for the warehouse space to Oz in the ledger of unwritten debts. Notwithstanding Blair's later sole ownership of the crypto farm, Oz continued to provide work for it without compensation. He talks about that in his video. Other amounts in the unwritten ledger of debt appear to include the purported $5,000 bonus to Oz in August 2022 from Pyramid Entertainment and other funds withdrawn by Blair from 9-Point Holdings Inc. accounts that were used by Blair and Oz to get the mortgage on Oz's residence current while Blair was residing therein. And I talked about this in one of my videos on this. It's like, so basically she was living there rent free. And why shouldn't she be liable for paying him rent for the amount of time that she lived there? That's something I would have an unwritten ledger of debt and throw it right back at her and say, this is rent you owe me. In January of 2020, Oz, then 20, and Blair, then 28, began seeing one another romantically in a long-distance relationship. Both were rising YouTube content creators at the time with their own online personas and channels, and each had other public-facing online accounts, including Twitter, now X, among other online platforms. Oz and Blair were also collaborators with a group of other public figures and online personalities in a group project, Sad Milk. And you guys, a lot of you, I'm sure, know that whole story. It's been talked about by the Click and the other people involved in this lawsuit, and what a total biatch she was to all of them in that project. At the start of Oz and Blair's romantic relationship, Blair flew to the home state of Oz to visit him in January 2020. Shortly after Blair's trip to visit Oz, Oz flew to Colorado in February 2020 to see Blair over Super Bowl weekend. Oz was actively engaged as a YouTube content creator and was earning approximately, and I blacked that out because it's really nobody's business, monthly when he and Blair began their romantic relationship. He would later become entangled in Blair's businesses and personal life to the detriment of his own financial well-being. And he talked about that in his video too, how basically he put his channel aside to work on the Illuminaughtii stuff and help her out. All as a consequence of Blair's urging, manipulation, coercion, deceit, and overbearing narcissism, which only foreshadowed her toxic personal and professional identity that would only later become evident. Blair, too, was an active YouTube content creator who would later form multiple business entities for her various other enterprises, including Pyramid Entertainment LLC and 9-Point Holdings Inc. Both Blair and Oz were and remain public figures with a multitude of followers on YouTube and elsewhere. Blair made a further trip to visit Oz in March 2020, and Oz made a further trip to visit Blair shortly thereafter, during which Blair began to pressure Oz to move to Colorado and to contract for the construction of a new home for the couple to move into together. Blair implored Oz to have a home built and to put the mortgage and title thereto in his name only, as at that time Oz had very good credit and Blair's credit was reportedly somewhat poor. That sounds like an understatement to me, but I don't know because I don't know what the score was, but Oz naively went along. That's what love does to you, you know? Sometimes we do stupid things. Bowing to Blair's consistent pressure for him to relocate to Colorado and buy a house they could live in together, in April of 2020, Oz contracted for the construction of a new home. Thereafter, Blair and Oz continued to see each other, flying back and forth between their states throughout the spring and early summer of 2020. In August of 2020, at Blair's insistence, Oz moved to Colorado and began residing in a rental property with Blair and her roommates, while the house he had contracted to construct for him and Blair to reside in was being built. During August 2020, Blair would form both Pyramid Entertainment LLC and 9-Point Holdings Inc. Upon information and belief, Blair would use funds from her LLC and corporation to ensnare Oz into a spiral of dependence, for which she would later insist on Oz's coerced signatures upon instruments of debt. These signatures were in part designed to control and manipulate Oz, forcing him to bow to Blair's will, but also to paper over the misappropriation of assets of her LLC and or corporation by Blair for personal use, which would later be understood by Oz to be cover for Blair's possible embezzlement of funds from her established business entities. Shortly after Blair and Oz moved into the home he had constructed, Blair began scheming to have a home designed and constructed in or about May of 2021. She also insisted that Oz be involved financially in the project for the construction of a new multi-million-dollar home for the two of them to live in together. Blair entered into design and construction agreements with a building company, paying a $75,000 deposit for the same in about September of 2021, and added 50% of the cost for such project to the unwritten ledger of debt she attributed to Oz, including $50,000 design fee and $25,000 deposit for holding the land. Now that's absurd. So he goes and has a house built and buys a house, and now she's decided she's going to design and build a house, and yet she wants him to be responsible for half of the cost when she didn't have any responsibility for the cost of building his house? Come on. Upon information and belief, the payments for this project came directly from Blair's business entities without any appropriate financial and contemporaneous accounting recognizing Blair's use of corporate LLC assets for her personal use. These and other transactions by Blair using her company's funds for personal use would later lead to Oz's understanding that he would need to sign documentation after the fact to make it appear that Blair's business transactions were legitimate business expenses so that she would not appear to have embezzled funds from her business entities. Blair would later unilaterally decide to cancel the building project, apparently forfeiting the design fee and deposit, but she continued to assert Oz's responsibility for 50% of the cost, or $37,500, in addition to the $40,000 she had paid him for computer work prior to Oz's closing on the home he had constructed at her insistence. These would be more amounts added to the unwritten ledger of debt. When Blair moved out of Oz's residence in February 2023, she took all the documents regarding the building project with her. I'm sorry, but in my opinion, she is so freaking slimy. This began Oz's reliance on Blair for financial assistance, which Blair would use to exploit and pressure Oz into numerous other transactions and purchases, including a luxury vehicle that his income couldn't support. Blair also demanded that Oz co-sign on various other loan obligations, including for the car Blair purchased and then leased to Wonder. Remember that whole story about her going in the dead of night to take the car from his relative's residence where he was temporarily staying before repossessing the same, and a $40,000 loan for home renovation, which Blair had promised to pay half of but never did. In or about September 2021, Oz began working for Blair's company, Pyramid Entertainment LLC, on an informal basis. In October 2021, Oz formally became a Pyramid Entertainment LLC employee, assisting Blair with production of her YouTube channel content under the name Iilluminaughtii. Oz allowed his work for Blair and her companies to dominate his personal and professional life, all but abandoning his YouTube channel and an independent source of income to work for Blair's benefit. During his time with Pyramid Entertainment, Oz was only earning approximately $2,800 per month. Oh my God. Despite having financial obligations greatly exceeding that amount, including for his mortgage obligations and other purchases Blair coerced him into, including vehicles and home renovation loans. Blair was aware of Oz's financial position and continually sought to exploit it for her own benefit and as a means of control over Oz. After becoming entangled with Blair, Oz's independent work decreased from posting 2 to 3 videos a week to his Oz Media YouTube channel in 2020 to approximately 1 video per month in 2021 and only 6 videos in all of 2022. Oz's independent work became overshadowed by his work for Blair and her various projects and other demands on his time. Blair initially moved out of Oz's residence in January 2022, but continued to store her personal belongings, including furniture, at his home. During this time, Blair and Oz continued to date each other exclusively to Oz's knowledge and belief. As Oz's finances continued to become fraught, Blair continued to exert her dominance and control over him and his financial existence. In late March 2022, Blair forced Oz to sign personal loan agreements with her personally and with 9 Point Holdings Inc. Also in March of 2022, Oz sought and was granted a forbearance on his mortgage, initially for 3 months, that later turned into 6 months. On August 8, 2022, Blair moved back into Oz's residence and continued to reside there until December 2022. However, her belongings continued to be stored at Oz's home until January or February 2023. Remember this whole storage of her belongings at his house, and I think this period that she moved back is when he was nursemaiding for her, where he was taking care of her and she was like expecting him to take care of her, which is absurd. And she had left like all this stuff there, and then she came up with a count of like computer fraud or something against Oz, saying he broke into the computer that she left at his house. I mean, come on. She left it there. She's not paying any storage charge. I mean, I don't think she has a reasonable expectation of privacy if she's leaving her stuff with him and not giving any indication of when she's going to collect it or giving him any compensation for storing it for her. So, that whole computer thing I think is just absolute baloney. In August of 2022, because Oz had become behind on his mortgage payments, Oz did ask Blair for financial help in or about August 2022 to keep his first mortgage current on his home. Again, Blair provided funds to Oz, which included a $5,000 bonus from Pyramid Entertainment and other amounts, which, upon information and belief, were corporate funds of 9 Point Holdings, Inc. All these amounts, including the purported bonus, were added to the unwritten ledger of debt. During Oz's employment by Blair's Pyramid Entertainment entity, payroll automatic deposits by the company were frequently delayed by days or weeks, while Blair, upon information and belief, used company assets for her personal use, including purchases of expensive jewelry, luxury handbags, and a new BMW Z4. What a crappy thing to do. So you're causing your employees to get paid late so that you can have all these luxuries, allegedly? That's ridiculous. On December 22nd, 2022, Oz was driven by Blair to her attorney's office, where he was presented with extensive paperwork and told to sign. These documents included settlement agreements and promissory notes to be secured by deeds of trust against, and basically liens, against Oz's home, as described above in paragraphs 3 and 5. The deeds of trust were recorded as liens against Oz's residence on January 3rd, 2023. Blair and 9 Point Holdings, Inc. each received benefits at Oz's expense under circumstances that would make it unjust for Blair and or 9 Point Holdings, Inc. to retain the benefit without compensation to Oz. Further, due to the failure of Blair, her lawyer, or business entities to itemize and account for the amounts included in the deeds of trust and promissory notes Oz was forced to sign, the debt secured by such deeds of Antoinette. The debt secured by such deeds of trust should be subject to an equitable accounting, and Oz allowed leave to amend to set forth all appropriate claims for rescission or reformation of such instruments of debt. And yes, I agree. He should get a total accounting so that there's documentation and backup for these numbers that apparently she's pulling out of thin air. Pursuant to Civil Procedure Rule 105, an action may be brought for the purpose of obtaining a complete adjudication of the rights of all parties thereto with respect to any real property. The court in its decree shall grant full and adequate relief so as to completely determine the controversy and enforce the rights of the parties. The court may at any time after the entry of the decree make such additional orders as may be required in aid of such decree. Oz quit working for Blair's Pyramid Entertainment entity on January 11, 2023. Within days of his resignation from Pyramid, Blair began attempting to woo Oz back into her web of toxic relationships, inviting him to illicit clubs with her new boyfriend, John Doe. And frequently, and I've redacted some of this crap out because it's a little racy and I don't really want to get into it. Oz rebuffed Blair's advances. Not satisfied with Oz rebuffs, Blair and John Doe did something really, really terrible. Let's just say they paid an unwelcome visit in the middle of the night to Oz's house, and bad things happened. And then I've had to redact some of this stuff out, and you can see that it goes on to describe horrific things that I do not want to salaciously put out there. So use your imagination, but bad things happened. Following the bad thing, attempting to dissuade Blair, Oz harmed himself and sent Blair photos suggesting he had a stress or allergy rash. The conduct of Blair and John Doe complained of herein was outrageous, unreasonable, and intolerable in a civilized society, and a normal person in the community would find such conduct offensive, annoying, and to be a clear violation of Oz's rights. Further, the conduct by Blair and John Doe was done by them knowingly and intentionally to deprive and or with reckless disregard for the rights of Oz, such that it was substantially certain to cause Oz severe emotional distress. And yes, I think this is one instance where severe emotional distress is something that's going to be able to be proven, and it's absolutely disgusting and horrible. And not only was it offensive what they did, but it was disgusting and criminal. Oz had a reasonable expectation of privacy. Blair and John Doe intentionally did bad things. As a direct and proximate result of Blair's and John Doe's unlawful and tortious conduct described herein, Oz has incurred injuries, damages, and losses in amounts to be proven at the time of trial. And I, when I first read the details of this, and I cried because it's just shocking. And that's all I'm going to say. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, Oz prays for judgment in its favor against counterclaim defendant and cross-claim defendants as follows. Against Blair, 9 Point Holdings, Inc., and the public trustee, quieting title to the real property situated at his address in Colorado, pursuant to civil procedure rule in favor of Oz, and decreeing that deed of trust recorded on January 3rd, 2023, under reception number blank in the records of the county of Colorado, and that the deed of trust recorded on January 3rd, 2023, under the reception number in the records of the county, be null, void, and of no further force and effect. And I sure as hell hope he prevails. Ordering an equitable accounting of all instruments of debt claimed by or on behalf of Blair and 9 Point Holdings Inc. against Oz, to include an itemization of all amounts included therein, as well as identification of the source of funds and dates for all such transactions, as you would expect. When you're trying to get someone to repay you an alleged debt, you have to have some kind of an accounting of exactly what, how much, and when these things transpired. For an award of damages and or restitution according to proof against Blair, 9 Point Holdings Inc., and Pyramid Entertainment for unjust enrichment. For an award of damages according to proof against Blair and John Doe for unlawful conduct, outrageous conduct, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, and for all such other further and additional relief as may be just and proper, which is something you commonly put at the end of a prayer for relief in case there's like something that the court may decide you're entitled to that you didn't specifically ask for. So there you have it. I know some of you are going to be like, well, why did you redact all that stuff? And guys, the point is to cover like the facts of the lawsuit so that there's an understanding of what exactly is at stake, but there is no need to cause further harm, embarrassment, or to invade Oz's privacy any further by going through and rehashing these horrific details. So I'm sure you can figure out what might have happened. That's all I'm going to say. And I am going to respect Oz's dignity and privacy by not going into the details. So please don't make any comments about it. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, it absolutely is worse than we ever could have possibly thought, on top of all of the stuff that she's been alleged to have done to all of these people involved. This one really takes the cake and is really, like, for me, the final straw. It's like, come on. I mean, in my opinion, her entire career has got to be totally dead now. I just wish that some kind of criminal action had taken place against her and John Doe. A lot of times in these types of situations, people just want to put it out of their head and move on. And I don't fault him for that at all. But, if he prevails in the civil lawsuit, great, good for him. And at least that will, give him his pound of flesh in exchange for the horrific things that allegedly she and John Doe did. Let me know your thoughts down below, you guys. I will update you on Clarice. It's so strange because I hate this like hospice period. We are actually going to go to the vet tomorrow morning if she is still lingering. I wanted to go today, but I got stuck in court all freaking day. I was literally crying at court because I wanted to come home and bring her to the vet. And the vet even kindly pushed the appointment off even later in the afternoon, and I still wasn't able to make it because of how long I got stuck at court. So I've made her comfortable. I've given her some pain medication that I had for civil. So she seems to be resting fine. We'll see what's going on tomorrow. But thank you guys so much. I'm glad I finally was able to give you this update and, send good thoughts and love toward Oz and everyone else involved in this situation because they deserve it. And, we need to continue to give them our support through this horrific mess that she's created for herself and brought on herself. Nobody else has done this to her. She unleashed Pandora's box herself, and now she has to pay the consequences, in my opinion. I want to thank all of our Patreon patrons as always, you guys. Thank you so much for your monthly support. It's really important to me. We absolutely love you guys so much. Antoinette is laying here. You can't really see her, but there she is. She's like laying here all content. We appreciate that. It really helps with the vet bills for the cats. And thank you for the channel members as well. You guys also, your part helps as well. And thank you to everyone who sends stuff from the Amazon wish list. You guys, it's unbelievable the amount of love you guys show. We love you guys so much. I'm going to figure out what the next video is going to be. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments or email me at catstertips@gmail.com. In the interim, take care of yourselves, love one another, send some love to Oz, and I will see you in the next one.
Pretty please. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell. I get a treat for every new sub. Thank you.